The Real Estate Show is proudly sponsored by Gold Key Properties Limited and supported by Gasm, California Gym, and Nalam Clothing.
Ghana's real estate industry is thriving, a reflection of the growth the nation as a whole is experiencing. Gold Key is part of this story. We have a unique opportunity to introduce world-class standards of luxury to the real estate market in Ghana. From pristine residential projects to high-rise commercial buildings, Gold Key is changing across landscape. The past decade has seen an amazing journey as we have the structures in place to engineer an even more glorious future.
What it cost you to build that 5-bedroom apartment? How many bricks or even blocks would you require? How many bags of cement would you have to buy? Or how long would it even take to complete that project? These are very basic yet critical questions that come up each time we want to put up a project. And as your real estate counselor here on the Real Estate Show, I have been on a woman hunt for answers to these burning questions, and I have with me an expert who's well versed in the area of quantity survey and in procurement management in the construction industry. You're live on the Real Estate Show with me, Efia. So it's proudly brought to you by Gold Key Properties. They are the leaders in the development of quality residential and commercial properties all over Accra. You can always trust Gold Key Properties to deliver. Remember, you can also watch us on our YouTube channel, also on our Facebook handle as well. You can get interactive with us via Twitter and also on Instagram. You just search for the Real Estate Show. You can send your questions and your comments as well. Let's go for a break. When we do return, I'll introduce my guest and the show can begin proper. Tuesday. welcome back from the break. This is the Real Estate Show with me, Efia Fusua. The show is proudly brought to you by Gold Key Properties. They are the leaders in the development of quality residential and commercial spaces all over Accra. You can always trust Gold Key Properties to deliver on that project for you. So today we are talking about cost when it comes to the construction industry. What are you supposed to know? What are the tips? What are the tricks? What are some mistakes you should avoid? So for us, helping to manage cost or even risk is concerned. And I have with me an expert, as I earlier mentioned. He is in the name of Charles Loco to give us answers to all these questions and even more. Mr. Loco, it's so good to have you on the Real Estate Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right. So what is the role of a quantity surveyor?
Basically, a professional quantity surveyor is that person who stands in the shoes of the client to manage costs on the project and other legal processes of the building projects, like the management of it. So, in short, I would say a quantity surveyor is a cost expert who manages both building and civil works, buildings, bridges, roads, the cost aspect of putting together a budget, and then also the management procurement aspect of having a contract document to run the project with. There are duties that the quantity surveyor does. Normally we break the duties into pre-contract and post-contract activities. The pre-contract basically is the cost planning, the budgeting, preparation of the tender documents, and then getting a contract document out of it. And then the post-contract is managing the project, the cost, preparing interim certificates for payment to the contractor, and then closing out the contracts. So basically, I would say that is the role of a quantity surveyor.
So let me give a scenario. So Akosia is a new real estate investor.
Yeah.
She just started and she wants to put up 50 single room self-contained apartments and give out for rent later. What could go wrong for Akosia if she goes ahead without involving a quantity surveyor?
So what could go wrong for Akosia would be that there's a possibility of Akosia running into a cost overrun situation where probably the budgeting of the project could not be well done by an expert. Akosia could have relied on past budgets and then without the quantity surveyor critically looking at current trends and building up current rates and doing good quantities for the project, there could be cost overruns on the project. Then also, if variations, changes, scope change are not managed well, there is a possibility of additional cost overrun happening. The quantity surveyor is the best person positioned to advise the clients accordingly that, look, if you want to change this door, this timber door into a glass door, this is the effect to have on the total budget. So these are some of the challenges Akosia might face if he doesn't involve the quantity surveyor from the very onset. She needs to get a budget in place before construction starts. And a budget, if I say a budget, I mean a very good budget. To get that, you need to quantify the building. Tell someone, I need this number of blocks, I need this number of paint, I need this buckets of paint and all. The quantity surveyor is well placed to do that. If you don't get him to do that, you might work with abstract numbers and that could throw your budget way off. So we come in handy to do that. Then also in preparing these documents, the quantity surveyor is well placed to tell you exactly materials that will go into the project. For instance, he's able to tell you you need 200 blocks of concrete blocks to construct this. And out of that 200 blocks, it means you might need 50 bags of cement. It means you might need this output of labor to put it together. If you don't have the right person to do that, it means your
So
budget
you could incur losses from not involving a quantity surveyor.
Yes, you could incur losses because he would give you exactly your labor output. You know, you need a mason to lay maybe 100 blocks
Right.
a day. If you go on without that guide and your mason is doing 50 blocks a day, you're actually 50% off your
So
target.
is it to say the roadmap you develop as a quantity surveyor even spells out how long it should take for the project to be completed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are able to establish exactly out of the outputs and the quantities needed for the project. We use it to establish the program, the milestones to be achieved during the duration. So based on that, you'll be able to tell this project will take 6 months to complete. And then you build a good budget for it based on that. So the outputs, we have outputs that a day should be performed by labor and materials that go into that output. You would use the overall quantity that you have established in your bills of quantities to draw up your program, and that will give you timelines. The earlier you complete within that timeline, the better it is for you. If the houses are going on sale, you get the houses ready to be sold out, and you get returns for your money early enough to break even or to make profit at the right
I think
time.
I get your point. The value of the dollar keeps rising each day. So if you're supposed to complete it within, say, a year, and it moves into another year, then you should be ready to bear the extra cost as well as an investor.
Yes, you should be able to bear that cost as well. But normally what we do is we put out contingencies on the budget. And that contingency could be price contingency. That takes care of the dollar rise and others. And then we have fiscal contingency. That takes care of bits and pieces of variations and quantities that might be just undervalued, undermeasured.
I read somewhere about insuring a project even before it starts. Tell us about that too.
So yes, you need to have a contractor's or risk insurance before the project starts, and probably a third-party insurance as well. You insure projects to make sure that if there's an incident, there's a compensation for the project. If equipment are destroyed, probably there's a fire outbreak and all. You don't lose out all your investment, but then the insurance company comes in to offset that cost. And then, so it's ideal for every project to be insured before it takes off.
Now, from your experience as a quantity surveyor, is it always a case that people pay attention to these details, particularly with the insurance aspect?
Yes, it's very, very important. It's contractually important that you put it in a contract for the contractor to provide a contractor's or risk. And third party, the client can come to site and something could happen to him. The client's relative who wants to inspect, or probably prospective buyers. Yes, you need a third party insurance to take care of any eventuality that happens. So it is contractually important to do that.
Let me give another scenario. So Kwame just wants to build a 3-bedroom apartment. Does he still need a quantity surveyor?
Yes. Kwame needs a quantity surveyor just because the quantity surveyor will be the right person to give him a budget. Then he would have to work within that budget. The quantity surveyor will be the best person to give him a time frame to construct. And he would need to construct within that time frame. He will be the best person to give him his material and labor schedule. So that he would work within a budget that would benefit him at the end of the project. So that his markup that it's put on the construction is achieved, and that becomes his profit.
I see.
What we talk about markups, there's what we call the rates that is applied to the quantity. So for instance, that 3-bedroom house, if I take the aspect of a block work, we would measure the area for the block work. when we get that area, we would apply what we call the rate. The rate includes the materials,
Right.
that's cement, sand, whatever for the blocks. It includes labor. There's a percentage for your profits, and then
Okay.
there's a percentage for your overheads.
Right.
So within that 100% rates, these are broken down, and it's a guide for you. And a contractor's profit overheads changes from project to project. So for instance, if you're having a project in Accra, you're Accra based, it will be different from probably you have it in Tamale and you're Accra
Right.
based. So your overheads change. So these are guides for developing rates that guides the clients to work within a budget.
Right.
So that budget, when controlled, establishes the profit margin for the person to undertake a construction.
Okay, so what if that investor doesn't have money to put into that project at a go? How do you work with that too?
You face it for the person.
Right.
Understand your question well. Probably out of, let's say, a budget of 1 million cities to put up 3 properties.
Say I have 500,000 Ghana cedis.
Yes, so it's good information for the quantity surveyor to look at the architect's drawing
Right.
and then come up with the bills of quantities that would hit the 500,000 mark,
Okay.
and then you prepare a document for that purpose to work towards. If you do that, you eliminate the stagnation of the project. Once you know you are working towards a 500 budget, the project is designed to hit that level of finish.
Right.
Then when a client gets additional money, you come back to repackage for closure, for completion.
Right.
So it's ideal to know that budget, and that is where we come in at the early stages, where we do what we call the budgeting and cost planning for the project.
Right.
So when you do cost planning, budgeting, you know the level at which that particular design that the client wants, you know the level at which he can achieve it.
Based on what he has
Based
available.
on what he has available,
Right.
then you're able to advise accordingly.
Right. Now, you've worked in this area for so many years. What are some mistakes you've seen people do in trying to put up a project, to invest in the real estate sector?
What readily comes to mind is not going for professionals to lead the process. The built environment has a lot of professionals. We have the architects, we have the surveyors, we have the quantity surveyors, we have the structural engineers, and we have the electrical and mechanical engineers. These people put together give you the product you are looking for. What most people do is once they get artisans and who are a bit experienced, they go like, oh, this is how we do it all the time. Look, I have an architect, I have a mason who can do that.
Exactly.
Then he gives the work out to the mason who doesn't consider whether the building can be put on a particular soil type or not.
Oh,
That becomes a big problem.
Right.
Because you see dampness in the building at the because probably consideration was not given to the soil type. But if you had a very good professional team in place, they would have looked at the soil type, done good investigations, and advised the soil type is not good, so probably let's stabilize it, or let's get the water out of the ground before we start the foundation. And that becomes a bit more expensive of a project, or that increases the cost of the substructure. But then once again you hear that comparison, and builder A telling me that, oh, when I did my substructure it was 100,000. If this guy says he'll do it for you at 130,000, he's cheating you. So quickly you come back to there's a not knowing that the soil conditions are different.
Okay.
And then it will cost you more to build in a particular soil type than to build in that regular soil type that the person got cheaper. So sometimes the clients should also know that they need to engage the building professionals a lot, so that these advices are well given at an early stage before they find themselves in a mess that they have to pull down or otherwise. Second,
have you ever had to work on projects like that where people have built because they didn't consult experts like yourself, they had to later pull the building down and then call you in now? Have you had instances like that?
Yes, we are always called in to solve problems when the hammer's already been done. You go to a project site, you see dampness rising. You just ask yourself what happened. Probably they were supposed to put some perforated pipes around it to pull the water out, or they were supposed to stabilize the ground before they start foundation, or probably the building was put up on vegetable soil. Probably the soil was used for a dump site earlier, and if you don't stabilize it, you see the building sinking. So all these things come into play, and they are all cost indicators that need to be analyzed before the project starts.
I see. Now, what are some compromises in your line of work? What are some compromises you've had to take just so that project is completed?
Ideally, you don't need to take any compromises, but let's say budget-wise, I mean, the client comes to you, I don't have money. This is the only budget.
Money is always going to be an issue.
Exactly. So you have to do the magic and build within that budget for the client. So sometimes you lose out on design. Your wish would be to have had a particular design. You would need to change it so that you fit your finishes. You need to compromise and drop the quality of it. Probably the client would have wanted a plasterboard ceiling, but you would need to give him a plywood ceiling based on the compromise you need to take, so that you don't get stuck on the way. He knows how you would have to manage alternative finishes. So probably you want to use ceramic floor tiles, porcelain floor tiles, but because of the costs, you will need to change to ceramic floor tiles along the way. Terracotta painting, maybe because of you having a lot of money, you would want to use alucobond.
Let's do some basics here. On the average, how many blocks do I need to construct for a single room apartment?
Now we have to calculate. You have to give me some. How would you be able to so a single room apartment?
Yes, a single room.
I wouldn't want to commit to that now, because you see, if you say a single room, it could be 10 meters by 10 meters size. It could be a 4 meters by 4 meters size, depending on the client's preference. But in industry practice, we say 10 blocks per meter squared. So if you know the meter squared area you are laying your blocks, when you multiply it by, it's supposed to be 9.2 average, but we normally run it up to 10. When you multiply by 10, you get the number of blocks that you would need. So you have a quantity surveyor who would advise you on that accordingly, so you don't overbuy for the rest to be waste, and then you also don't underbuy to delay
the project,
because the more you take transport to go and buy and come back to go and buy again, they are all costs. So you actually need the right quantum to buy at the very onset to do that. So we have factors that we use to calculate, so that, for instance, if I tell you 10 blocks goes into a meter squared of block work, that could also tell you that maybe you need 45 to 50 block, one bag cement to lay that 45 to 50 blocks.
So, now the instances, people share experiences all the time of a project where they buy sand, they buy bags of cement, blocks and all of that. They later go on site and then realize the workers have stolen some portions of their blocks or their sand, or even some bags of cement. How do we deal with that?
So when you engage a quantity surveyor to prepare the bills of quantities for you, the bills of quantities becomes a basis for calculating your material schedule. That material schedule becomes your guide So if you're buying these things, you know you wouldn't go wrong. So for instance, if you buy 4,000 blocks to site, you know it should complete a particular area or the whole project. If you start getting demands that it's run out, then you can question pilfering on site. So
Okay.
you are able to check
So
pilfering.
in this case, who do you question?
Your project, I mean, whoever is responsible on site, and
Okay.
it could be your project manager,
Right.
or your security on site.
Okay.
You need to, you do all this, you need to have a check on your materials in and materials out.
Okay.
So you're able to question and control costs. These are a lot of loopholes that most clients don't look at and they lose. You find somebody walking, a painter going home, and he has a little Milo container
With some oil paint in it.
Exactly. He's pilfering it, he's gone. But if you know the right quantity and you give it to them, you know it should be able to be adequate for that particular project.
How about ensuring the quality of the materials you expect to be put into the project is exactly what they use? There are instances where people say, oh, so we spoke about buying, say, a metal for this particular thing. You go there and then they've installed a plastic instead of a metal. How do you check on that as well?
So in our duties, we add, in addition, the documents we add to the bills of quantities are what we call the specifications.
Okay.
So the specifications are supposed to be followed
Right.
as per what is in the contract documents. So for instance, if you are casting concrete and it's supposed to be grade 25, it has to meet a strength. You test that concrete strength on day 7, day 14, or probably day 21. It's supposed to achieve a particular strength.
Right.
You take these things to the lab to check on quality. The blocks are supposed to meet a particular strength. So you crush them at the lab to achieve that strength. These are checks for quality. And then based on the descriptions or the architect's instruction, you are able to state that particular quality specification in your bills of quantity. That's supposed to be followed to the letter. So for instance, if you're supposed to do 3 coats painting, it's stated in the bills of quantity as a preamble.
Right.
And you don't do 2 coats. Once it's specified, you follow to the letter what has been specified in the bills of quantities. And all these are prepared by the quantity surveyor.
I see. Mr. Loco, the conversation is really getting interesting. So you're still live on the Real Estate Show with me, Efia Fosua, today. There's a lot I have learned from this interview. Now, in wrapping up, for someone watching you who wants to be like Mr. Charles Loco, in summary, where do they even start from?
I think you need to do well in mathematics. And, that is key. And when you get to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, or these days I think most of our technical universities, you can read quantity surveying or management.
Right.
And yes, that takes you through to become a quantity surveyor. It's basically a 4-year course.
Okay.
And you go through a few. We have similar courses we do with the land surveyors and the architects, as well as the structural engineers, so that we can all work together. Then we do have our main core structure of quantities or management, depending on where you want to switch to. So you take that decision to become a quantity surveyor.
Right. Mr. Loco, in wrapping up,
It's an interesting course. It's a versatile course.
there's a lot I've learned
A quantity
today.
surveyor can branch into various disciplines.
Okay.
Yes, because at the end of the course, you are versatile in project management, construction management. You can fit into a lot of professions. Yes.
You can fit into a lot of professions and make big bags like Mr. Charles Loco. But it's been a pleasure talking to you.
been a pleasure
We
having you.
appreciate
Yeah, right.
having you on the show. So I haven't engaged Mr. Charles Loco. He is well versed in the area of quantities, survey, and also procurement management in the construction industry. My name is Efia Fosua. We wrap up the show at this point and return next week with another power-packed edition. Until then, do get interactive with us on our social media handles. You just search for The Real Estate Show. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. All of these handles. You can also search for me on my personal social media handles as well, all at Efia Fosua, and send in your comments and your questions as well. So until then, do remember to always get a quantity surveyor involved in that building project you intend to embark. And truth be told, it would save you lots of costs. You don't want to incur losses in your course of trying to put up that home or that project you have always wanted. Until then, enjoy the weekend and we see you next week. Bye.
The Real Estate Show is proudly sponsored by Gold Key Properties Limited and supported by Gassam, California Gym, and Nalam Clothing.
Ghana's real estate industry is thriving, a reflection of the growth the nation as a whole is experiencing. Gold Key is part of this story. We have a unique opportunity to introduce world-class standards of luxury to the real estate market in Ghana. From pristine residential projects to high-rise commercial buildings, Gold Key is changing across landscape. The past decade has seen an amazing journey as we have the structures in place to engineer an even more glorious future.